Welcome to Serious Rock Talk Crime.
Let us begin at the end. You are in Joshua Tree National Park, Southern California. It's September 19, 1973. Nighttime in the desert. Suddenly, you see a fireball rise up to the sky. The fire erupted from a casket full of gasoline. It has been ignited by a man named Phil Kaufman, a man who just a few years before had recorded Charles Manson playing original songs. The fire is burning the body of Gram Parsons, pioneer of country rock. You see Kaufman and a friend run from the flaming casket as headlights approach. Welcome to the life and death of Gram Parsons, a life and death surrounded by Southern Gothic darkness. And that is our tale today. This is Serious Rock Talk Crime, and I'm Dr. Ian Clarke. There are certain people in the arts, be it music or film or poetry, what have you, that are incredibly influential, but not well known outside the devoted. It's a strange phenomenon. Gone at 26 years old, in Gram Parsons' brief life, he contributed, if not curated, a new music genre, which is a stupendous accomplishment. And he left us with a wonderful body of work that includes, most notably, albums recorded with the Byrds and the Flying Burrito Brothers, and his 2 solo records. Parsons' critical reputation has grown steadily since his death, and his music has influenced a younger generation of so-called alternative country or alt-country musicians. Okay, the beginning. Parsons was born Ingram Cecil Connor III in Winter Haven, Florida, on November 5, 1946. His father, Cecil, was a major in the Air Force. His mother, Avis, was the daughter of the prominent Snively family, who had made a large fortune in the Florida orange business. After retiring from the Air Force, Cecil moved to Georgia and ran the Snively's crate production plant in Waycross, where Parsons and his younger sister grew up. Parsons often referred to his childhood as the happiest years of his life, even though his parents' drinking habits cast a shadow over the family. He listened to the country radio that dominated Georgia and sang hymns in church. He was also exposed to both soul and rhythm and blues music, and his father, an amateur musician, encouraged his son to learn piano. In 1956, the 10-year-old Parsons saw Elvis Presley play at the Waycross City Auditorium, an experience that changed his musical outlook and changed his life. When Parsons was 13, his father, who likely suffered from post-traumatic stress after his service in World War II, committed suicide. His mother then married Bob Parsons, whose name Parsons would take despite their uneasy relationship. and her drinking continued, eventually causing cirrhosis of the liver. She died on the day of Parsons' high school graduation. Parsons' first important foray into music was with the International Submarine Band, which was formed during his freshman year at Harvard in Cambridge, Massachusetts. He left school after only one semester. The band moved to Los Angeles, California, where Parsons quickly connected with the West Coast scene. The band recorded one album, Safe at Home, in 1968. It's a mix of classic country music covers and Parsons' originals. Even at this early stage, the elements of his sound, country, rhythm and blues, soul, gospel, and rock, were formed. In 1968, Parsons joined the famous rock band The Byrds as the piano player. His powerful personality and musical vision immediately transformed the band. The result was Sweetheart of the Rodeo, a country music record made in Nashville, Tennessee. Parsons wrote much of the material on the record, and although sales were disappointing, many critics called it one of the best records of the year and one of the Byrds' best efforts to date. It has since been recognized as a classic. The Byrds were invited to perform at the Grand Ole Opry, the first rock and roll act to appear on that stage, where they upset the management by performing Parsons' song Hickory Wind instead of the Merle Haggard tune they had been asked to play. Parsons' contrary nature became well known later on. Despite the band's success, Parsons' work ethic was not up to the Byrds' standards. When he opted to stay in London, England and hang out with his friends, including the Rolling Stones, instead of playing with the group in apartheid-run South Africa, he was fired. Parsons immediately formed the Flying Burrito Brothers and recorded Gilded Palace of Sin in 1969. The album includes Parsons' original material and cover versions of such rhythm and blues hits as Dark End of the Street and Do Right Woman. Parsons never liked the term country rock. He preferred to call his sound Cosmic American music. The sound is firmly rooted in honky-tonk and country, but suffused with a rock countercultural spirit. The Flying Burrito Brothers gained a small, devoted following, but radio airplay eluded them, and record sales were not strong. The band was considered to be too country for rock radio, yet did not fit the rigid Nashville country mold either. That situation can happen when you're in the lead of anything. During this time, Parsons had Nudie Cohen, the famed designer, make suits that enabled the band members to wear, literally, their country rock style on their sleeves. The nudie suit was at the time a widely recognized country look, popularized by such artists as Hank Williams and Gene Autry. Parsons' white nudie suit was sequined with the images of naked women, marijuana leaves, pills, and a giant beaming cross on the back, in place of the usual cacti, cowboy hats, and lassos. Parsons made only one more record with the Flying Burrito Brothers, Burrito Deluxe, in 1970, which features the first recording of Wild Horses, the well-known Rolling Stones song. The Stones gave Parsons an early crack at the song as a gift for his help with writing the tune. But Parsons' escalating drug use and erratic lifestyle once again caused problems with the band he fronted, and he left. After 2 years out of the studio, Parsons enlisted the then unknown folk singer Emmylou Harris to accompany him on vocals for his comeback solo record, GP, 1973. The duets they performed were so successful that he asked Harris back to the studio for his second solo album, Grievous Angel, 1974. Critics often cite Parsons and Harris alongside the likes of the great country duo Tammy Wynette and George Jones. Parsons' songwriting reached new levels on these records. His sound is stripped down and mature, yet retains the signature soul and rock elements of his earlier work. Parsons was, by all accounts, pleased with these recordings. He was also attempting to clean up his drug habit. So, to dry out and decompress, Gram Parsons' manager, the notorious Phil Kaufman that I mentioned at the beginning, suggested Gram take a retreat to his favorite place in the world, Joshua Tree. At the time, Joshua Tree was not the haven and destination spot it is considered today. It was a remote desert area that few visited. But Gram Parsons was one of the first who recognized the beauty of the landscape. Parsons was with his high school girlfriend, Margaret Fisher, with whom he'd recently rekindled a relationship. They were joined by an assistant named Michael Martin and his girlfriend, Dale McElroy. They stayed at the tiny Joshua Tree Inn, room 8. Parsons spent time out in the desert during the day, and they would hang out in local bars at night. There was plenty of alcohol around, and the couples were also using barbiturates. At one point, Michael Martin was sent back to L.A. to resupply room 8 with marijuana. While he was gone, Parsons purchased some liquid morphine from a local woman who injected Parsons and girlfriend Margaret Fisher. Gram Parsons overdosed. They transported him back to his room where they tried to help by giving him a cold shower and coffee. He partially recovered, but then relapsed. They called an ambulance, and Gram Parsons was declared dead on arrival at High Desert Memorial Hospital 15 minutes after midnight, September 19th, 1973. His stepfather immediately arranged to have Parsons' body flown back to Louisiana, perhaps so he would stand a better chance of inheriting a chunk of Gram's family fortune. But Parsons' friend, Phil Kaufman, intervened, remembering a drunken pact they'd made at a friend's recent funeral. Whichever one of us goes first will cremate the other's body in Joshua Tree Park. So, in a semi-drunken expedition, Phil Kaufman and a friend borrowed a hearse, talked their way onto the tarmac at the airport, into the hangar where Gram's body was being kept, and even convinced the individual at Western Airlines to release the body to them under the false notion they were transporting Gram to another airplane. There was even a police officer at the hangar who helped them load the casket into the hearse. They were so nervous, as they were driving out of the hangar, they ran into a wall. Okay, let the Southern Gothic continue. Eventually, Phil Kaufman made it out to Joshua Tree, wheeled Gram Parsons in his casket into the desert, drenched him with 5 gallons of gasoline, and lit him on fire, leaving him there to burn. Some nearby campers saw the smoke and alerted authorities. Meanwhile, Kaufman and the hearse broke down, were involved in a fender bender getting back to Los Angeles, and eventually he got caught and charged with stealing and damaging the casket. The remains of Gram eventually made their way to New Orleans, where he was laid permanently to rest. Though the death of Gram Parsons was definitely mourned by the music community, it wasn't like the deaths of Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, or others of the area. He was really just getting started with leaving his mark on the music world, and that mark would go on to prove itself indelible and long-lasting. More than almost any other musician, the country rock pioneer Gram Parsons' legacy is entwined with the story of his tragic death. Common themes of Southern Gothic include storytelling of deeply flawed, disturbing, or eccentric characters, sometimes having drug dependencies, sinister events bred from poverty and wealth, alienation, crime, violence, and forbidden sexuality. In a way, Gram Parsons never really escaped his past, but it made him who he eventually became, and often what makes you eventually breaks you. And it broke Gram Parsons. I'm Dr. Ian Clarke, and you've been listening to Serious Rock Talk Crime. Be sure to visit our website, seriousrocktalk.com, and explore the many different podcasts we have related to rock music. And as always, the beat goes on.